Este Sean Fisher, Chief Sonny Reyna. Checking in with you, my little brother. I've been on medical leave. Spirits took me to other worlds, brought me back. Got a special gift. It's a magical time upon the earth. Someone wrote it a long time ago. It's the best and worst at times, man. But the magic never abandons.
When the darkness meets the light.
By the year 2012, the world as you know it will have ended. Where will you be? What will you be doing? These were the very questions I had been wondering when I made the discovery that would forever transform my life. I had been confused by our complex modern world, with all of its differing opinions about what seemed an uncertain future. While some were claiming a time of increasing improvement and expanding global development, others were proclaiming unprecedented planetary breakdown and even the end of human civilization. I wondered where we were really heading and what my own future would hold, and that's when my mysterious journey began into the metaphysical. My name is Sean, and like most people I know, I had always intended on living a happy, long life filled with many rich experiences of discovery and growth. But I would soon learn that there are no guarantees in this world. It all really began for me with a series of mysterious and unexpected phone calls from a Native American peace chief named Sonny Reyna, an authentic medicine man and healer, a true teacher of the sacred way. He was the one who first introduced me to Native American legend and prophecy, and it was Chief Sonny Reyna who first had me thinking about things as I never had before.
Ya jefe. Hey. Hey, man, we gotta deal with this thing, man. We can't be running away from it anymore.
Yeah. Well, what?
I mean, we belong to this thing, man. We are its puppets, bro. You understand that?
Yeah.
But look, it's Spider-Woman, man. Spider-Woman. In the legends and the creation stories. We're at the end of a cycle, man. It's physics. It's like the 4 seasons on the Earth. There are seasons inside the galaxy.
And what's this next cycle going to be about?
Consciousness.
According to some Native American legends, the world began with Spider-Woman, the sacred goddess who weaved the web of creation. And in the beginning, there was rain.
The WMO said it tracked an alarming incidence of unusually adverse weather from Europe and Asia to Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa. In South Asia, monsoons have killed more than 500 people and displaced more than 10 million others. In the Middle East, the first documented cyclone in the Arabia Sea was reported in June. In China, heavy rains affected more than 13 million people. England and Wales had their wettest May and June since records began in 1766.
The legends speak of different worlds which have appeared and disappeared on Earth as great lessons to humanity whenever it had become corrupt with power, greed, and self-interest. It is said by some that we are living now in the 4th world, the world of material lessons, and again, the peoples of Earth have lost the spiritual way.
A stampede broke out in California among customers waiting for the new PlayStation game, and it was all caught on video. Retail employees asked customers to line up against the wall for the new game system, and that's when the chaos began.
According to the legends, when the peoples of the world have become corrupt, when even the sacred waters of Earth are corrupt, you can be sure the next world is coming. Life moves so fast on planet Earth, sometimes I can hardly believe how my life has changed so much. I grew up like many in small-town America, learned all the traditional values, played sports and worked summer jobs, and of course went on to get the college degree. But I was also a little different in that I would often be found backpacking through the world, exploring new cultures, and ever on the search for adventure and discovery. Of course, eventually, at the encouragement of family and friends, I too settled into the ordinary routines of adulthood and became a focused, driven career man. And everything, as far as I could tell, was just fine. Until I woke up one morning from a very strange and vivid dream in which I had been told the world was running out of time and that I had a choice to make. But when I woke up, I had no idea what this meant. So I began turning to books by many alternative authors, all claiming to have experience and knowledge about these strange kind of happenings. And that's when I stumbled into something a little unexpected. I learned that some in this alternative field believed that there were mysterious events happening on planet Earth that were affecting virtually every kind of human experience in ways we had never seen before. But as I was about to dismiss this theory as obvious, something anyone could see by watching the daily news, I learned that what these people had meant wasn't something physical in nature, but something they called metaphysical. And as if this weren't strange enough, I then received a phone call from a Native American peace chief named Sonny Reyna, who had learned about me through a friend. The ideas this wisdom teacher shared with me were so fascinating and new that I began to wonder if there might be something more to these metaphysical ideas than I thought. Or if there might be others who could also help me understand what was going on, and even help me make sense of my life once again.
New voice message.
Hey, Sean Walter here. I just found out that you're taking a leave of absence. As a more serious client of yours who's been trusting you with all of his business, I think it deserved a little bit more heads up. I know you have plenty of people there at the office that can help me, but I wish you would have consulted with me before taking a vacation. And I really hope that this doesn't become a problem later on. I'll call you if anything comes up.
Having handled a few practical matters, I grabbed some of my things, my notebooks and cell phone, and set out to begin seeing what I could find.
Basically, there are things that are happening in the world,
very strong winds right now.
And it's very hard for the mind to figure out what's going on.
Our civilization is on a path of ever-increasing acceleration. But what are we rushing toward? Anxieties are multiplying. The environment is disintegrating. The heat is rising as the ozone layer thins. Military analysts prepare for resource wars fought over water and grain. Indigenous prophecies point to an imminent polar reversal that will wipe our hard drives clean. New Age cults scan the skies for extraterrestrial apparitions. Old Age religions anticipate Armageddon.
People that are religious people or Christians identify the signs and say these are the end times and Jesus is coming.
I had mentioned the end times ideas of my religious upbringing to Chief Reyna and had asked him if this had anything to do with the kind of changes he had been speaking about. But all he told me was that there were other ways to look at these things, and that if I remained open to them, the teachers and signs would come to me.
And I am totally convinced, beyond the shadow of a doubt for myself, that there is a divine presence in the universe that men have called God. I don't have any problem with that idea, that there's a higher spiritual dynamics or a matrix at work.
Metaphysical principle.
Yeah, metaphysical, but it's actual and real. It causes things to happen, so it cannot be nebulous or in your mind. It's actual and real.
The kind of transcendent order of reality that is kind of manifesting through this reality in various ways. So I guess for me, metaphysics would be, the way you kind of approach that kind of conceptually.
What does metaphysics mean to you?
Metaphysics?
Yeah, what's it? How do you take it?
Metaphysics means beyond the physical. So anything and everything beyond what we physically know to be true, with our senses, with our physical senses.
We know it's not real. We know this reality is not real. Everything in this room, all the metal, all the plastic, all the glass, breaks down to subatomic particles under an electron microscope. So the physicists know this is not real. And today they say that it's more like a thought form. That's the best they can describe our reality. It's like a thought form.
What's going on with metaphysics today? Why are you so into it, and why do you think there's a popular audience for you to share it with?
Well, I think that I think everybody knows something's wrong, like a splinter in your mind, as they say. There's a seed that's germinating, an understanding that things aren't right, that things aren't as they are supposed to be. When you look at ancient cultures like the Mayans and the Aztecs and the ancient Egyptians, they seem to know more about our future and about our ultimate destiny as angelic beings, if you will, as the true destiny of man, than we ourselves today know.
I think a lot of people have a sense of fear about what's happening if they allow themselves to really think about it. So the more convenient decision is to distract oneself with the pleasures of materialism like we see around us here, and to not focus on the deeper issues that are clearly happening at this time.
I think we are at a critical time in human history, even in the planetary history. And in brief, the reason I think we're in such a crisis is because psychologically, spiritually, we're still very much asleep to who we really are.
If you look around you, any of you in this room, how many people do you know are struggling right now? How many people do you know that are questioning, who am I? The whole world is reaching a level of struggle. Why? The old systems are no longer working. Look around you. Are governments, and that is governments with an S, are they really working? That answer has to be a no. Is the educational systems really educating people, or are they working? That answer, again, one would have to say no. Are the economic systems globally, are they actually working?
Chief Raina's ideas were now being confirmed. This was a unique and even difficult time on Earth in which there was much we needed to understand. But Chief Raina had also emphasized some very mysterious forces at work in nature during this time. And he had encouraged me to read the many legends and creation stories of his people to understand more about them. When I did this, I remember being very impressed by several stories in particular. Stories that seemed to possess an almost otherworldly quality of magic, mystery, and extraordinary faith in the higher powers of the natural world. There were the great ceremonies for bringing rain, in which live rattlesnakes were used to carry prayers of renewal to the rainmakers in the spirit world below. These rattlesnakes were not at all feared, but were considered to be powerful brothers of the people. And there were the legends of Spider-Woman, the Native American goddess of creation. She would appear whenever human beings had forgotten her sacred ways, bringing an end to the current world and heralding the dawn of a new one. And as I again considered the new century world, with all of its pressing challenges and its common disregard for the laws of nature, I had the strange sense that something was coming, and I wondered what it was.
If somebody asks me to draw their soulmate or their guardian angel or the spirit guide, what I do is I ask my guardian angel to connect with their guardian angel and to bring in the correct and perfect information, picture, person, whatever it is that they want for them at that time frame.
All these ideas of magic and legend had stirred something in me, and I wanted to know if there really was anything to them. So I decided to attend some New Age metaphysical conferences. I had heard that these events often had hundreds, even thousands of people in attendance who openly embraced this kind of eccentric worldview I was exploring. And I knew here I might find what I was looking for.
Can you show us a few samples of some of the things you've drawn? Are all of them real or some of them are fantasy creations?
Like these are fantasy magazine things I've done, illustrations. But this one is my soulmate. And I drew this a month before I met my own soulmate. Dragon, would you please come here and take off your glasses? And show them how you look like this
is how many years apart, by the way?
And I drew this 6 years before he and I got together. I met him a month later.
And did you know that he was the one that was coming in your life, or you just figured it could be, or?
No, I knew he was my soulmate. I resonated with that drawing.
We didn't set this up ahead of time, right?
No.
Just pick a card. Again, this is as meta as it gets.
This is metaphysical magic.
That's right. Look at the card. Now I'm going to turn my cards face up, turn yours face down, put it back in the deck. We put the cards back in the box. Good. All right. Now, the idea is the cards only exist in the imagination, right? We take those cards and move them into the physical realm. Well, they might jump into my pocket and become physical, so now you can see them.
Right.
But the idea is this. If you name your card.
Okay. Any card you mean?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, whatever you had.
10 of hearts, I think
All right.
it was.
All right, and yeah, it's hard to tell when they're invisible. But what is this invisible realm, right? So if we look through the cards, we just see if we can find a card, one that's turned over. Just one card upside down. This is a manifestation exactly of your thought. Go ahead, turn it over. There it is, the 10 of hearts.
That's unreal. That is beautiful. That is unreal magic right there.
Everywhere I went, I seemed to be finding people of magic. And while I was enjoying their open enthusiasm for life, I quickly realized that understanding their alternative ideas was going to take more work than I thought.
So what do you do exactly? This is interesting, and it looks like you have some geometric forms and so forth.
Yes, angelic Merkaba is sacred geometry. It creates an energy vortex that comes down, usually from down here. You can do for healing, you can bless water, you who are sensitive can just come up, you can feel where an energy comes in. And
this little thing is doing that right now? Just this thing right here?
Yes.
But it wasn't just the ideas that made me wonder. In some cases, it was the people themselves.
I spent many years, once upon a time, raising real live unicorns. That was another whole phase in the 80s.
How do you
I raised real unicorns in the 80s. It was the most famous thing happening. It was all over the place.
But I had to admit that some of these people had gifts and talents I had never seen before.
Well, several years ago, I had a lot of dreams about swimming with dolphins in my dreams. And several people said, Sakara, the dolphins are calling you. And where that led me was literally swimming with the dolphins and whales all over the world. And what they taught me is how to use sound and the purpose of it. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth.
And even when I thought I had seen it all, I hadn't.
What is channeling, and then who is Maitreya?
Channeling is where an energy from the spiritual world used as a physical body to communicate to humanity. And on a Wednesday night on Contact Talk Radio, I spend the whole hour in deep trance channel.
Every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday, and he comes in and he speaks and he answers people's questions, and there's not one question he hasn't been able to answer yet.
So how would Maitreya answer the question I just addressed to them, which is that a lot of the metaphysical we see, at least the New Agey stuff, they don't necessarily address the suffering of man in a reality-based way, or the transition of dying and letting go of things we love.
Because they are frightened of it. They are in fear. The book I gave you holds many answers. My channel, this lady who is allowing me to speak through her, is a very
talented woman in the fact that she has many attributes behind her to help me do this. It is a joint affair. You are looking for answers. You will find the answers eventually. So I will withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You okay? The
Yeah.
master just came in for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
She calls him the master.
I'm shaking.
You're okay. He was really putting out a lot of energy. I could really feel it.
I wasn't sure what to think. I was wanting to believe in all these New Age metaphysical ideas, but a new and unexpected challenge confronted me now. In the midst of all of this, how would I know who was telling me the truth? What and who could I trust?
The New Age community is absolutely loaded with pirates. It is loaded with profiteers. It is loaded with embellishers.
And in the New Age movement, there's a lot of people who love the idea of reincarnation and auras and crystals and all this stuff, but they don't have a love for self-discipline.
Basically, the New Age movement has offered gimmick cures to people, gimmick ideas, gimmick faux philosophical concepts that are far and away different than the real tenets of the great thinkers of our time.
It's big money making business. It's like anything. You have to sort out for yourself what's real for you.
Everybody's attracted to something precious. Everybody wants the truth. But the truth is not apprehended by the action of the will. And also when you embark upon the journey of the truth, there's tests and challenges along the way. So everybody goes towards it, but how many can take the barbed wire fences, the challenges, the obstacles? And the New Age movement knows this, and that's why many people back off. And then they're not allowed into the inner precinct because they're toxic. So what do? They stand outside in the marketplace and go, I'll sell it to you cheap.
We're getting so much stuff thrown at us and so much crap thrown at us and good information, bad information. It's really up to us to do this work, to discriminate and to really how do we do it? Well, it's work. You have to learn to focus your psychic energy.
What resonates? What's in your heart? If you're introduced to a concept, an idea, teaching a book, a drumming, whatever it is, what does this tell you? Here's your discernment.
We already have the gifts. You have sentience. You have 37 sensory inputs to the brain. We use 5. You have the mirror of another person in which to see your own flaws and your own perfection. Everything is being laid on. You have the greatest teacher in the world, nature, and we call it inanimate. Man is seriously toxic, seriously flawed.
I was beginning to question what I was getting myself into, and if this was really going to be the best use of my time off from the working world. But I also couldn't stop thinking about the future, about my future, and the unusual and uncertain conditions of the new century. Why did it feel like a time of great hope and possibility, while it also felt like a time of great struggle and confusion? As if the modern world was missing something.
This is Carl Jung. He says, the gigantic catastrophes that threaten us today are not elemental happenings of a physical or biological order, but are psychic events. To a quite terrifying degree, we are threatened by wars and revolutions, which are nothing other than psychic epidemics. At any moment, several millions of human beings may be smitten with a new madness, and then we shall have another world war or devastating revolution. Instead of being at the mercy of wild beasts, earthquakes, landslides, and inundations, modern man is battered by the elemental forces of his own psyche. Whatever external nemesis or problem or disorder or dysfunction is existing in the world, the tendency of the modern intellectual is to run around with placards and try to fix it in the external setting. This has never worked, will not work, and nothing is going to change because consciousness has not changed. The human is not changing.
The world is stacked against consciousness. It's stacked against it. Why? The government doesn't want you to be conscious. Your schools don't want you to be conscious. The economy doesn't want you to be conscious. They want you to be good little slaves. They want you to obey. They want you to be controlled. And they don't care about you one way or another. They care about making more money. Who are all the great leaders that get killed? When you talk about Jesus or Gandhi or Martin Luther King or John F. Kennedy or Robert Kennedy, what's their message? That we should probably get along, that we should harmonize. And why are those the people that, bang, get shot right away? Because they want divide and conquer. They want to split us up by race, by creed, by religion, to make, you're different from the Muslims and you're different from the Iraqis and the Iranians and they're subhuman somehow, so we have to go to war against them. It's the oldest trick in the book, and it's all about divide and conquer.
I don't really see much hope for the human family, because what's going to be required for the human family to survive is going to be some extraordinarily spiritual, intellectually brilliant people to plan out how to get out from under this mess we're in. Well, those kind of people stand out. And in our Western society, you do not want to stand out.
And as I continued, so did the phone calls from my new Native American teacher, Chief Sonny Reyna.
It's coming to reclaim us, man. The magic is coming to reclaim us. I'm working on 2 books. One is called The Great Humbling. We're in it. It's a prophecy. And so it's going to... The storm is upon us, and the people do not get on their knees. Well, and pray. Separation from nature is suicide. And only the humans practice that suicide.
I again wondered whether I really wanted to go wherever this new metaphysical path was taking me. Maybe these people didn't have any greater message about life than the rest of the world. Maybe there wasn't one. But then what? I had spent years working 60-hour work weeks, catering to the endless demands of clients, paperwork, bills, and meetings. And I'd become so focused on achieving my goals that I rarely took time off to do anything else anymore. In fact, my pattern had become so predictable that the people I worked with almost expected it of me, 60 hours and all. And now, I almost couldn't bear the idea of returning home and looking forward to nothing more than a future filled with these common and ordinary routines. But it seemed I had no other choice until I noticed something unusual in the road. It was a large spider walking directly in the path of my car. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have given this much thought, but my recent phone conversations with Chief Sonny Reyna had begun making me more sensitive to the idea that nature was filled with many signs and powers of guidance. I wondered if the appearance of this spider might somehow be such a sign. And that's when I remembered the stories I had read about Spider-Woman, the ancient Native American goddess of creation, who was so often depicted as representing the protection of the sacred laws and the higher mysteries of nature. And as I was standing there, transfixed in some kind of strange and sacred moment, the almost unthinkable happened. And as I rushed to help the spider avoid an even worse fate, something disturbing about the unconsciousness of the modern world suddenly overcame me. And that's when I realized this spider was a sign that there might be something more going on around me than I was presently understanding, that I must not turn back, but must commit to my original purpose in order to truly find the answers I was looking for and even understand the strange times we were living in. I would have to now venture deeper into the metaphysical.
Gary's Garage, and it's a low-key Monday on your radio dial. We're gonna have some fun tonight. Got some special guests coming.
Hey, Sean, it's Walter. I don't know what's going on over there. I've been calling your office all night, and no one's getting back to me. I really don't care if it's after 10. I've been going over those documents that you guys sent over to me, and I've changed my mind. I don't want to use those numbers that I gave you guys. What I need is someone from your office fix these documents with the new numbers that I sent over, get them back to me. I know you really don't want me to get my lawyers involved at this point, so I expect to see a fax from you guys first thing tomorrow when I get in. All right, I appreciate it.
I had heard about a lecture being given by a world-famous channel named J.Z. Knight. J.Z. first began her work in the 1970s, and Ramtha, the higher dimensional being she channels, was thought to be an enlightened teacher who once lived on Earth during the lost times of Lemuria. Through these channel communications, J.Z. has attracted a global audience in the millions and given rise to serious debate about whether channeling might in fact be a real phenomenon. Considering my own strange encounter at the New Age conference and my new goal to understand these metaphysical ideas in much more depth, I decided to begin here and see if I could learn more.
Before we begin, I want you to know that my name is J.Z. Knight, and I'm the channel for Ramtha, the Enlightened One. He is the being who coined the term channeling.
I am Ramtha, the Enlightened One. I am 35,362 1 and 37 seconds years old. I was born in that which is termed a great and marvelous place called Lemuria, and my destiny here is to teach you that which you desire to know.
So they hooked me up on a very sophisticated lie detector test on the computers. I left my body so fast, and Ramtha came in so fast, that the computers went down, and they had to recalibrate. And when they came back up on the screen, my eyes opening, this is the screen, eyes opening up here, eyes closed, pretty impressive. When Ramtha came in, he was rumbling down here in Delta. And so their conclusion is that we do not know who Ramtha is because he doesn't have a social security number or a credit rating. But we know from our studies that is not J.Z. Knight.
There is an overwhelming temptation to be accepted, and acceptance is viewed by the human creature as love. And when you're loved, you're going to be fed and sheltered and clothed. You're going to be accepted. There is no secret society on earth more secret than the fraternity of human consciousness. And in that, everyone pays their dues to belong. And this is one entity that got out.
J.Z. Knight's lecture was fascinating, but I still had questions about whether channeling was really possible. Something was drawing thousands of people to these metaphysical events, but I wasn't entirely sure what. I realized then that I needed to change my approach. If I was going to have any chance at understanding these new metaphysical concepts, I was going to have to expand my range and travel now the entire country.
I hope all you listeners out there in Radio Land are with us. And if you just tuned into Gary's Garage, I'm so glad you found us. We're here to just chat and just get a little nutty.
Welcome to the next density.
What you do affects the entire world.
Everything in this universe that we know about is vibrations.
That is a portal.
If you're not afraid to die, that's when you become courageous to live.
It goes on, there's angels and there's all these great beings.
The ancients really understood that there were multiple realms of intelligence.
Take a quick break. We'll come back to Gary's Garage in just a second, and let's rock on.
Very ancient sound flowing out of love.
Divine Feminine, the power that takes a dry ceremony that's not working but all the words are right to something where you know, whoa, that happened.
And that's the moment where miracles happen and things shift, and the earth that we all blessed in that ceremony feels different.
The more I listened to these people, the more I found myself swept up in a strange kind of metaphysical mania that, no matter how unusual, always seemed to have me wanting more. Something I came to call Metaphysia.
Yeah, back at Gary's Garage. Let's take a breather from that big thought molecule that just came right out like a bubble. We're back. Sean, what's your last name?
I had been listening to an alternative radio host who had an interesting perspective on life. I even dialed him up to see if he had any advice for me as I continued along my metaphysical travels. But the advice he actually gave me was a little unexpected when he invited me on his show to speak about my experiences directly.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
How did you get the inspiration to start a radio show in your garage like this?
I love talking to people, and I work in a business where I can't talk very much. I mean, I have to be like quiet and retentive, and so this allowed me to have a connection with people in a way where I didn't have to plug in all the necessary and more organized functions. I mean, I feel like I can draw people to me.
And that's when this unusual path became a little more unusual.
Let's welcome all the other planets and planetary galactic beings out there and expand our consciousness, and to know that, you know what? It's a big, bright future out there for all beings, no matter if they're microscopic in the ocean, in the plankton, or living on other solar systems that interact with our government and have secret meetings. I know a little bit about you. I've just met you. You're in LA. You've just done a big schedule, a lot of talking to people, a lot of different experiences. Maybe is there anything that stands out in your journey? What's the highlight?
People have to realize that they were born with the essence of creations and they are God themselves. These are for people who have been possessed by bad spirits. This is for people who have chronic headaches, cancer, people that have some serious problem that they've tried everything and nothing worked.
What's interesting is we met some fascinating individuals out there. You wouldn't believe what's going on in the psycho-spiritual circles of Metaphysia out there.
Ooh.
I generally like to ask participants, how do you like your heart being treated? And using a head humming kind of a
People are feeling something in tune in themselves that they have to pay attention to their inner self. It doesn't matter if you're, the greatest guy in the world and you don't have anyone to share with, which is like Gary's garage, but, it's like you're just trying to feel full all the time.
No matter where I went, I continued to encounter all things alternative and unusual. And soon, I realized this experience of metaphysia wasn't just unique to me. Metaphysical teachings and fascinations were everywhere. But what was even more strange was how thought-provoking and profound some of these ideas were turning out to be.
Gaston Bachelard called art metaphysics in a minute, and because it collapses all these ways of seeing or presents a point of view immediately. We live in a very materialistic culture. And there is an evolutionary alarm going off. There is a sense that the soul is starving for nurturing.
When we look at the world with wars, rumors of wars, ecological destruction, I see those as large birth pangs to the emergence of a whole new way of being on the planet.
There's so much good that's happening right now, and there's so much bad. But then when I come in a field of this kind of loving, look at that, I never saw people hugging and loving like this, looking all different kind of colors.
That's great.
So I know that is beyond.
Many people are trying to save the world. Now, we don't want to save the world. We want to serve the emerging paradigm of the new world. You see, the world as you see it from the news reports are simply a report of human experience of individuals who are sleepwalking. What we want to do is start to giving you a report of the world as it looks from people who are waking up. It's totally different worlds.
When mind moves collectively, there are aspects of the physical environment that move as well. An example is on 9/11, we saw a massive change in a worldwide network of monitors that we use. These are electronic circuits which are fundamentally using quantum noise to create coin flips. And what we found around 9/11 was not only did some of the random number generators become more orderly around the events unfolding, but they all did. It's as though that we live in an ocean of consciousness, an ocean of mind. When something big comes along that causes the minds to work in sync, we see the equivalent of a tsunami.
Come to Entheon Village.
Entheon Village is our camp.
Oh, you're going to be at Burning Man?
Oh, yeah.
Are we going to be at Burning Man? Yeah. But there's lots of offerings. There's lots of sculptures, and there's trampolines and aerial acts. You know what I mean? It's the art festival of the eon. It's of the era. It's like it represents our era in an amazing way.
In the midst of these intriguing ideas, my metaphysia suddenly turned to Burning Man, a global community gathering filled with tens of thousands of these alternative thinkers. Apparently this would be a life-changing event, but this festival only happened once per year, and for me, it would not be happening anytime soon. So now, I had to find another way to satisfy my metaphysical interests. I had learned that New York City was considered to be a hotbed for these emerging metaphysical ideas, and that a woman named Jody Sirota was doing some interesting work there.
I'm a vibrational sound healer. I bring sounds in from higher dimensions and vibrational languages.
Jody founded the Meta Center, a sacred space in the heart of the city, where she offered her unique sound vibrational work to help people find healing and balance on all levels, both physical and metaphysical. But what interested me even more about her center was the kind of people it attracted and what they might have to share.
I believe in living your life consciously from a higher conscious perspective. It doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you take time for yourself to get connected to how you feel.
This is the new paradigm. We're coming into a paradigm that will accept a greater possibility. That's the new paradigm. It's not based on materialism.
People don't understand the huge disservice modern science has done for the last century. Because back in the end of the 1800s, they dismissed the idea of human beings having a spirit or soul.
Evolutionary biology, to space physics, to theology and cosmology, everything that we as a planetary humanity have experienced over thousands of years of evolution is going to change.
So what's happening on the planet now is something that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. Our thoughts are manifesting faster. We're being asked to take greater responsibility for our thoughts.
I left the Meta Center with a strange realization, as though I had been discovering something all along that I didn't fully comprehend. Why was all this new thought metaphysia happening so dramatically at the exact same time in which the very structures and stability of the world seemed to be breaking down? What was behind this unusual phenomenon of the new century? I realized that if I could answer this question, I might finally understand what was coming in the future.
It's interesting because we've talked to some people who have no hope. And they see the darker, more negative, more manipulative energies of this world and what's moving this world as being already successful. What do you see based on not only your own perspective, but you've done research on this kind of stuff?
Well, I can be pretty blunt in making this statement and telling you that if a person is without hope, then that person is also without education. They do not understand the new science that is coming about as a result of all the advances that we're making through studying consciousness and learning that consciousness is not something that's trapped inside your brain as an electrochemical phenomenon, but that your consciousness is actually an interface with a living field of energy that exists all over the universe.
The shift of consciousness that's been prophesied in all major traditions, all spiritual traditions on the planet speak of these times.
The Great Pyramid of Giza, the Pyramid of Chichen Itza in the Yucatan, and the Mayan Pyramid, and the Aztec Pyramid of Teotihuacan. They're prophetic clocks. They're monuments in stone that were built out of kilter, out of whack with the cosmos for the time in which they were built. When in fact what's going on is that they are ticking backwards to a particular unique period in time, which is this particular period.
I think Earth is on the cusp of probably the single greatest event in the course of human history. If you look in the overall picture, whether it's the Maya, the Native American, the Christian aspect, the Sanskrit, the Gita, the Torah, the Bible, they all seem to be pointing to this particular window.
And then I discovered that there was an ancient prophecy, a mysterious prophecy, for the year 2012.
I think people as far back in time as we can actually document began to notice cycles. In the Mayan tradition, there's a cycle of 5,125 years. There are also grand cycles consisting of 25,000 years. Other information supports that. Even the biblical text itself says the world is only 5,000 years old. While we know that's not quite exactly correct.
In the universe, we don't have linear time, we have cycles of time. And it's a different concept, meaning there's an intended flow of energy and an intended evolution that's happening during a period or a cycle or an age. And then that one comes to completion and we move into a new cycle.
So prophecy actually came from mathematical cycles, cycles that could be calculated because of the historical information best on humankind, that they could project that into the future.
For the last 5 years, I was studying prophecies. And over time, my whole worldview shifted. I began to think what was meant by like a world was really like a form of consciousness, that we were transitioning between ways of being and knowing. And I realized that it was necessary to take really seriously what these other cultures were saying about the time that we're in. And then it turned out that a lot of these cultures have very serious kind of prophecies or foretellings about where we're at now, and really believe that we're in this very crucial juncture. And the year 2012 was the end of the Mayan calendar, the end of all these cycles that seem to culminate and come together at that point.
2012, December 2012, begins the new age, the new cycle, that the whole human race moves up to the next plateau.
It's the consciousness shift of so many different ancient cultures. It's an alignment of the sun at 27 degrees Sagittarius, which is a direct alignment of what they call the cosmic womb of galactic center, that literally a hole in space, that the center of the galaxy is through that hole. So when the sun actually crests at 27 degrees Sagittarius on that day, December 23rd of 2012, you actually have what looks to be the head of a child coming down the birth canal, the crowning head of a child, being this new energy.
That event, because on a higher dimensional level, is an indication that might have been like the Mayan apocalypse. It's almost like our whole planetary situation is organizing in response to this event that we're moving towards.
If what I were hearing were true, then the ancient legends Chief Reyna had talked about regarding the new seasons of the galaxy might have been more significant than I thought, especially as I now considered the prophesied end of the Maya calendar in 2012. The Maya was an advanced civilization of the ancient world whose people believed the galaxy was multidimensional, conscious, and intelligent. In these interpretations of Maya worldview, the entire source of all creation was found in the central core of this galaxy, often described by them as the cosmic womb, or goddess force, which gave birth to all the worlds. Our own solar system's movement into special alignment with this source energy in 2012 was what was being emphasized by the Maya in the end of their calendar. But what was so intriguing to me about these ideas was that this calendar not only mapped the progression of time coming out of this galactic center, but also the progression of consciousness.
Is there a shift coming? The date 2012, of course, is huge. It just keeps coming up from so many different perspectives. Last year, I worked primarily with hypnotherapy organizations, teaching therapists. I asked them, I said, how many of you feel that there is a shift going on, that things are changing? Maybe we're speeding up, there's a vibrational shift. And every single hand in every single city, they said, yeah, they all felt there was a shift.
Do you have the sense that time is moving faster? Does it feel like time is actually moving faster than what you knew it to be? Or what we're actually witnessing is the birth of the divine nature of humankind. Ancient text says that in that time it will be brother against brother, father against son, mother against daughter, and nation against nation. We're witnessing all of that. Why is the question?
What happens in the heavens is intricately intertwined with what's happening on the earth, and we are part of a vast system. If you look at astrology and astronomy, there are major galactic alignments that are happening. We're entering the Aquarian age. The Mayan calendar ends in 2012 and so forth. All those things dovetail. And what's happening right now is a lot of those cycles on a very vast scale are coming to an end roughly all at the same time.
That we're in a process at this time, and why it's so intense at this time is that we're going through the death of the Piscean age. At the same time, we're birthing the Aquarian age.
It is an activation of frequencies of DNA. It's an activation of thought, of spirit, of mind. It is a merging of the Eastern and Western cultures and the Eastern and Western sections of the brain as well.
The 2012 of the Mayan calendar is saying the same thing. It's saying that in 2012, there will come an end to this dispensation, this particular age or period of time.
The true manifestation of the Aquarian age began 2 weeks before the incorporation of Microsoft and began to literally take everything that we know, the end of bricks and mortar, the end of buildings, the end of libraries, which has now brought us to the internet, to computers, to a global connection, what Pierre Lesjardins called the new sphere, that the new sphere is in fact the connected consciousness of man, creating literally the seventh chakra point of the planet. Everything's wireless. Everything's now, all information is now being transmitted through the air, which is Aquarius, which is the cosmic man, the Messiah, coming down through the stars and actually pouring the cistern of consciousness. Aquarius is the two squiggly lines because it's the transmission of electromagnetic energy. It's the transmission of information through the air. That's what it means. Cell phones and the internet and all of this telecommunications are nothing but kindergarten for the next step, which is global telepathy.
According to these people, the cosmos was much more than the empty space and exploding gases I had learned about growing up. And the age of Aquarius was much more than just some peace movement of the 1960s. In their view, these great astrological events were the primary hidden forces behind the unusual extremes of the new century. And while I wanted to believe everything they were sharing, I still needed a little more evidence for these higher theories. Something even a little more convincing.
As our solar system is moving through this peak of energy, it's causing great transformation in the physical realms of the entire solar system.
I've done all the scientific research now to prove that the changes that we're seeing on the Earth are happening throughout the entire solar system.
Global warming. Do you realize science can't agree on what that is? They have no idea really the cause. Some say it's greenhouse effects, others say it's this hole in the ozone and it's caused by this. What if it is not?
We can see that the sun is more active now than it's been in over 9,000 years, based on data that goes to core samples of ice from Greenland and Antarctica. You can see that Venus is 2,500% brighter at the night side than it was just a few years ago. Mars is experiencing global warming.
Ancient texts will tell you this, that in that time, the ground will be so hot that you will not be able to walk on it with your bare feet.
You're seeing Jupiter having a profound global warming across its entire surface. When you look to Saturn, it's having a huge increase in the amount of X-ray activity from its equator.
What if global warming is not caused by external effects that we as humans create?
When you look to Uranus, you're seeing it getting noticeably brighter. There's clouds that are larger than all the continents on the Earth that are forming. They've never seen clouds like this before. They're very bright.
What if it's caused by internal effects working their way to the surface?
When you get to Neptune, the actual brightness of Neptune, the entire planet, has gotten noticeably brighter in the near-infrared range.
Geologists have gone and taken core samples in ice. The interesting part is, 25,000 years ago, there was a global warming. Now, it begs the question, what were they driving 25,000 years ago?
Pluto has been drifting away from the sun, but at the same time that Pluto is getting farther away from us, it's actually getting hotter.
Wait a minute. They went back 50,000 years in core ice samples, and guess what? The same thing occurred. Again, you have to ask yourself the same question. What were they driving? What were they doing?
We're heading into this shift. There's going to be this huge change in the basic way in which reality works on Earth, and consciousness and our social structures and everything you can imagine. And it's shifting in a much more harmonious direction.
Think about something. What visually is the highest vibrating, seeable thing with the naked eye? It's that. Fire, heat. Higher vibration, we know, creates heat or the sense of warming.
It's not just the Mayans, and it's not just the Christian prophecy of the rapture. When you do your homework, you'll find that every ancient spiritual tradition in existence is talking about an end-time scenario, and they all say that it's going to lead to a golden age. It's almost a ubiquitous agreement on that point.
How does it affect the mind? Would it create struggle? Would it create unrest? You think is so. What about our emotions? The same thing. My point is, we're being bombarded by higher vibrations, which is preparing the world for a global shift.
Are you being shifted because it seems, I don't know that everyone is being shifted. It seems that metaphysically oriented people are more sensitive to this, and they may be among those who are now being shifted, moving toward a new vibration, moving toward what?
The world I once thought I understood was transforming before my eyes in strange, new, mysterious ways. And I wondered how much more of this there was to know. But I was also curious. Was I one of those on the planet now being shifted? What exactly was going to happen in the year 2012?
I want to ask you a very simple question. We know that earlier in our evolutionary record, we have a shellfish. There's a shell around the outside and there's meat in the center. And then at some point in our fossil record, we start seeing bony fish. Skeletons on the inside, the meat is on the outside. Where's the fossil that shows you the transition between shellfish and bony fish?
You have Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon or whatever these hominids were, and in fact, overnight, you have humans like us.
In every single stage of the evolutionary record, any time that they have tried to show transitional fossils, it's been debunked.
Where we're designing computers and playing classical music and building high-rises, and where did all that come from?
Now, Rope and Sepkoski compiled the most exhaustive record of fossils that has ever been put together. And they did it mostly from marine life, because that's the longest term amount of life that we have. And what they're looking at is, when did these creatures shift from one form to another? And they did not find a gradual slope. They found very sharp discontinuities in the fossil record.
We're finding that there are sudden shifts, sudden changes in evolution.
Evolution doesn't happen through a kind of incremental process. There's kind of like kind of stasis period where there's a kind of building up of what's suppressed and suppressed energies. And then there's a very fast phase transition.
It's like a camera flash bulb goes off, and all of a sudden everything spontaneously changes on Earth. In like 1 or 2 generations, very short period of time.
There was no way that language could have appeared as an incremental development from animal communication. It was much more like a whole new structure suddenly appeared in the brain.
And science has no explanation for the jump, right?
None at all. But the way scientists handles it is very, very clever. They don't even discuss it. That's it. Nothing to discuss. Move on.
It's possible that this shift that we're moving towards is going to be very, very sudden and as deep as that shift from no language to language. And it might happen really fast.
I had clearly found the kind of metaphysical thinking I had been looking for. We were living in a time of unprecedented cosmic shift, as anciently predicted for the year 2012, and it was directly affecting our planet, our world, and even our own consciousness. But while this message was very positive in the metaphysical worlds I was discovering, in the rest of the world, something still seemed terribly wrong. In that world, half the human race was living on less than $2 per day. There were extreme shortages of food, water, and energy. And in that world, people were still fighting senseless wars. And so I wondered, which of these worlds were we actually living in? Was it the metaphysical one of awakening cosmic consciousness? Or was it the old world, the one filled with this pervasive struggle and unconsciousness? It seemed that if our destiny would have anything to do with the balance forming between these two worlds, then maybe, as I had originally thought, the odds were stacked against consciousness.
Before the great volcanoes come to humble us, before the great earthquakes come to humble us, before the great tsunamis, tidal waves, 1,500-foot tidal waves move around the earth to humble us, before that comet that's coming here, attracted by our misery, by our horrible attitude for each other, allowing innocent children and their fathers and mothers to die of hunger every day in a world of abundance. We are pulling a meteor, a comet, to the planet to strike and to humble us.
In Buddhist circles, this period of time right now is talked about as the great age of darkness. And however much we would like to feel that there's really good works going on. People are thinking some wonderful things. There are fantastic paradigms that people are unearthing. Still, when you look at the geopolitical situation, when you look at what's happening to the planet, it's quite a dark time.
And right now, the human being is in a stage of kind of refusing to grow up and take responsibility for their actions.
My own sense of what's going on is that we're fighting for our life as a self-reflective culture, and that if we can do this, if we can make it through the eye of the needle, then what will happen is that we will have a new relationship between the individual and the group.
There are voices that pop up in this darkness that say, we can look at this a different way. We can act differently towards one another. Throughout the history of humankind, the proportion of those voices have always been small. At the same time, a small voice that's pure can have a magnificent effect on this planet.
The Western people have to understand, because the Western people kind of think we're the avant-garde and we're having the paradigm shift. For the last 300 or 400 years, we trampled all over and ripped them off. And we genocided the Native Americans here. The British, exploited and enslaved the Indian people. We slaughtered up the Africans, and they're still reeling. Africa's still reeling from our exploitation. We're still exploiting them. And so we have this tendency to think, we're going to have our big paradigm shift because we're the head of the planet. Right. But we're not, actually. We need the paradigm shift.
Were we really living in the dark time of unenlightenment as I had been told? Did this explain the unique conditions of difficulty, change, and struggle on the planet, making some question the fate of the world? Or was the shift causing all this, somehow infusing the Earth with greater cosmic energy at this time, purifying and preparing everyone for a new stage of earthly evolution? Or was it somehow both? As I continued driving, I listened to the rain outside, wondering if our future might be more one of consequence than the dawning of some higher order. I then began thinking of the coming astrological age of Aquarius, itself symbolized by the water bearer, the great cosmic being who comes to bring higher divine truth to the world. And suddenly, I began to wonder about the deeper meaning of water.
Water is an anomaly in this dimension that humankind does not comprehend or understand.
Water is the common denominator of all people, all planets, all religions.
It is the interface between the world of spirit, the world of God, and this dimension with where we live.
We're entering the Aquarian age, and she comes as the water bearer, the bringer of truth. So when we start healing the water, we start healing the world.
There's this huge awakening relative to water by humankind at this time in history.
Right now the world is in crisis. We're having a water shortage. There's pollution all over the world. So we had a program with Dr. Emoto, who is the person that did the research on the consciousness of water. We invited certain diplomats to come and hear what he had to say. We're saying, consider this as an alternative solution to the problems of pollution with water.
If humanity does not address our mismanagement and misuse and disrespect for water within the next 10 years, that we'll see the collapse of civilization as we know it.
There was a strange irony to everything I was hearing. As we were entering the Aquarian age of the water bearer, the waters of the earth were struggling for survival, almost as if the entire realm of nature was somehow reflecting to the human race just how far off the cosmic course it was, and that if we didn't wake up and understand this, the world, it seemed, might soon be running out of time. So after all of my efforts, I had now come full circle back to the original message of my fateful dream. A dream in which I had been told there was a choice to make as I came face to face with the mysterious power of prophecy.
On that day, December 23rd of 2012, the Mayan calendar and the Aztec calendars all say that at that point, one man will no longer be able to enslave another. And when you consider that the entire world and our entire economy is based on some form of economic slavery, you would think that the end of slavery would be a good thing. And yet, I point out to people that every single time you have slaves who want to be free, or robots who rebel, if you will, or cosmic consciousness that awakes, you have war.
The idea is that's like Vico and Plato knew. Civilizations are born, they come to their peak, and then they end. We are now in the end phase.
The only hope I see of the human family on the earth is to have a revelation, an enlightenment, to accept what is obviously true.
There are seasons of life, there are rhythms of life. And the cycles of life that the Druids and the Magi and the Shaman and the Maya understood. Western man knows nothing of this. He lives in a fluorescent, superlit, always-on world.
If you look at the world realistically, it's actually going downhill. People are not aiming for the higher mind. They're getting more and more stimulated in the sensory pursuits by the marketing machine.
There's a crisis. There's many different aspects to the crisis. The Club of Rome called it the global problematique, and it has all these different facets. And if we don't solve them, I think it's going to see the collapse of Western civilization.
One thing that's really fascinating about this whole 2012 thing, from my perspective, is, if you thought that the Mayans were garbage and they couldn't have known anything, because they didn't have our science, okay, that's fine. But then really, there's, if you look at all these scientists are saying that this is a critical period, this next 5-year period, in terms of species extinction. Within the next 30 years, 25% of all species on the planet are going to go extinct. And what we've been learning, as science has learned more and more, we've learned that the whole web of species is totally meshed together. So if you knock out 25% of the species, it may actually mean the extinction of all large land animals. One way or another, either we're going to choose to make a shift and we're going to begin to enact it very, very deeply, or we're going to be looking at a terminal situation on the planet for the human species.
The universe is getting ready for a new type of human consciousness, but whether humanity, Homo sapien 2, will be the recipient and the vessel for that, I think that's what we're choosing now.
And then, all of the difficulty of what I've been hearing was compounded and confirmed by another timely phone call from Chief Sonny Reyna, Native American wisdom man of the Yaqui Carrizo Nations, traditional sun dancer, and ambassador for the natural and supernatural worlds.
We have to get very conscious of our thoughts, of our words, because we are waka, we are sacred, we are holy. We're as holy as any holy people in any of the religions. Nothing separates us except the propaganda of fear and ignorance and control and greed. So yes, we're in the new season. Seasons change. We're in the change. Global warming is only the tip. We belong to that power that runs the seasons and is coming to humble us.
The message of my original dream was now becoming more clear. As we approached this cosmic turning point in the year 2012, human beings were being given a choice. Either we become more conscious of these natural forces around us and thus more attuned to their influence and indications for change, or, as some of my Buddhist friends warned, humanity could continue on its dark path of unconsciousness, refusing these greater signs, and face the likelihood of a very uncertain future. For me, it wasn't too difficult to see which path most were choosing. We were no different than all of the other civilizations before us, and like them, it seemed that we too might soon disappear. And so, I decided to head home. At least, that was my intention. But when I received a phone call to come spend a couple days with sound healer Jody Sirota, I had no idea how quickly everything would change.
So just to remind you, it's not something you don't know. I'm just reminding you because you're getting a little overwhelmed at this point. You're dealing with so many people and all the different things, the etheric realms as well as the physical realm. So you're dealing with everything from a multi-dimensional level. The end of the Mayan calendar in 2012, this is a particular timing. This is a timing where it has been prophesied that there will be a major shift in consciousness to bring us to a much higher level of remembering who we already are. So I volunteered to do a healing for you, to help you to rejuvenate and calm yourself out. Ate Malkuth Vegevora Vegedula Le'alam Amen. I hereby banish from my space and your space and this entire space all energies which are not appropriate. It has been tested and proven that sound can change matter. So So I work all the way into the DNA of your cells. The DNA is where our consciousness emanates from. The vibrational languages that I bring through are a combination of energies from the earth plane before karmic patterning began. And I'm going to say a prayer to bring you back to a sense of peace and infused with love.
There are things that are happening in the world.
The gigantic catastrophe.
Anxieties are multiplied.
The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
At any moment, several millions of human beings may be smitten with a new madness.
I think a lot of people have a sense of fear about what's happening if they allow themselves to really think about it.
The whole world is reaching a level of struggle.
I don't really see much hope.
The true apocalypse is the Armageddon within, not outside.
Indigenous prophecies point to an imminent polar reversal that will wipe our hard drives clean.
We really will not be living life as we know it today.
And when she had finished with the healing, I was somehow not the same. Everything around and in me was filled with a beautiful feeling of peace and healing energy. And the more I allowed and enjoyed this positive feeling, the more it intensified. And that's when I realized the global shift of consciousness was about a literal experience, a conscious experience. There was more to these cosmic energies than weather and warnings. There was an actual power and intelligence behind them. This is what had been missing in all of my questioning. I had been looking for the metaphysical force of a new golden age, while also doubting and denying its real power. And the world was hoping for a new age, while also doing the exact same thing. But consciousness was the key. These higher harmonies of the universe were real, but only to those open to consciously experience them. And it was through this mysterious connection, profound and transforming, that a new kind of healing energy was set in motion. And even while the clock was ticking, and the year 2012 was soon approaching, and the world was steeped in conflict and challenge, something else was happening that felt as real to me as anything I could see or touch. And suddenly, I found myself rethinking this metaphysical path as I never had before.
Okay, so take us through what we're about to experience, because we've never been in this situation before.
I will go into an altered state. It will take me a minute or two. And as that happens, a telepathic connection is made. And then in a pretty quick moment, Bashar will, in a sense, his personality it'll take my energy will form into his personality.
Similar to Jay-Z Knight, Daryl Anka was a metaphysical channel who had attracted international attention. He channeled a being named Bashar, described as a multi-dimensional extraterrestrial being from the future, with an intimate understanding of the human condition. I had learned of his work during my travels, but had been a little reluctant then to pursue an interview. Now, everything was different, and when granted this unique opportunity, I decided I was ready to meet Bashar.
I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all?
Greetings.
You may proceed in whatever manner your imagination so desires. What would you like to discuss with us this day?
I would like to discuss the phenomenon of channeling, of you being here with us right
All
now.
right. My frequency is adjusted to become something closer to the channel's frequency. His frequency is adjusted to become something closer to mine. Somewhere in a sense in the middle, our vibrations meet and synchronize and lock. And thus what you get is a model of my thought patterns made out of the energy of the channel sitting before you.
It's a unique experience for me because I've never talked to a being from another dimension or another time.
That you know of.
That I know of.
Because all of you speak to other beings in other dimensions all the time, in dreams and in altered states, but because it doesn't necessarily serve your life to remember that immediately, many of you simply don't carry that memory into your physical reality. But all of you have had these kinds of conversations before.
What is going on at this particular time on our planet that seems to be causing an emergence of all this exploration into other dimensions?
Well, first and foremost, you have been experiencing the idea of limitation and negativity for thousands of your years. You have pretty much exhausted that cycle of experience. So in coming to the end of the experience of limitation, you are now allowing yourself the timing of waking up and remembering that you chose this experience in some senses. Being at the end of that cycle, you're now remembering that you have other options, other choices. And so you are waking up to more of yourself, and that waking up, that remembering of who you are, coming out of the limitation, going into less limited reality, is what you have euphemistically called your New Age awareness.
And what are our choices, do you feel? Because humanity seems to be in a difficult circumstance right now.
We often use what is called the rubber band analogy. The idea being that the farther back into darkness you pull the rubber band, when you finally do let go, you will snap onto the light that much faster and go that much farther. You follow me?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
What do you get a sense for the overall potential destiny of our collective humanity once we've established, moved beyond this negative viewpoint?
Yes. The idea is, of course, first of all, that there is no such thing as a prediction of the future, because there is no such thing as the future. A prediction, psychically speaking, is simply a sensing of the energy that exists at the moment the prediction is made. And in that sense, what we sense for your immediate future, based on what we are sensing now, is that sometime between your years of 2015 and 2025, your entire species will become aware that other civilizations do in fact exist. Somewhere between your year of 2025 and 2033 will be an increase in contact between your species and other civilizations. And sometime between 2033 and 2037, there will be absolute open contact and the beginnings of the possibility of your world joining the alliance and association of many worlds that exist in the galaxy around you.
My experience with Bashar was so powerful and unusual that I left the interview actually wondering if I had just made contact with a being from another dimension. And as strange as this was to admit, it was what he said that was even stranger. The future did not exist. Our future was already being determined now by the play of energies in the present. And if this really were true, then once again I wondered, what exactly was coming in the year 2012?
We'll come back to Gary's Garage, so let's take a break. Get you ready.
A new concern for America's national well-being. The new threat, the global economy.
The laws of nature are coming back to take us. Do we fight it and lose, or do we humble ourselves and let it take us because we belong to her? And it's holy. It's love. Ya gente. It was a good time to call, bro.
Yeah, I just felt it, and all of a sudden I should give you a call.
The changes are coming. It's not fear. Love's coming to take us home. Yes, it is the end times. It is the end of confusion that comes from artificial culture. Nature comes and takes us again. Those are the tribal prophecies from all the ancient prophets. The great women, the great men, the humble beings who saw the future. We're in it right now. It's a harsh reality until we bring it into our heart and begin to heal it. I believe it's time that we share a ceremony for all the people of the world, man, that honors all the religion, all the beliefs. All of us have got to say a prayer for peace, for forgiveness, for healing. The spiritual forces are in our face, waiting for us to reconcile the damage we've done to each other. It's time to share the prophecy. We could go to the ocean and make a traditional offering. It could be a vision quest for you, Sean. Old woman, old man, you, mother and father of the gods and goddesses of the religions, I'm coming straight to you because I come from you. I'm your child, beyond our comprehension and imagination. You're so pure, you're just pure spirit, pure love. Please come and help us. It's our prayer, bro.
That's beautiful.
The ceremonies remind us to be humble. So it's time for us to get humble and let nature teach us. And that's a ceremony we're going to teach. That through it, we shall heal our presence upon the earth. So, yeah, join me Saturday. Please, let's do this together. Alone, you can't do it. Together, we're going to have a future. Love you, man. Be strong.
Thank you, Chief.
Get some sleep.
Thanks for all this. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Chief Reina's words confirmed something deep inside of me. Something I had felt during the powerful healing experience with Jody, but had trouble articulating. The changes coming around 2012 weren't fixed, any more than our future was fixed. What was coming onto the planet then wasn't just a new energy, but a new opportunity. During this unique window, we could actually choose to realign ourselves with the higher laws of creation. We could perform the sacred ceremonies, offer the healing prayers, and participate in an initiatory experience of renewal that could benefit the entire world. And even while others seemed to struggle, we could enliven the earth with a new expression of our own transformed consciousness. This was the principle that Chief Reina wanted to demonstrate and confirm to me directly in a collectively empowered healing ceremony for the world. And although I still had much to learn about these traditions, I knew I was being granted a rare opportunity of access, usually forbidden to outsiders. And now, in order to show respect for this offering, I needed to use the remaining time ahead to prepare myself.
The ceremonies were given to us by our forefathers. We have this connectivity with spirituality. We have this connectivity with ceremony that teaches us who we are, where we came from, and why we're here. As human beings, we're the ones that pray. We're the only ones that can pray. So I become a prayer warrior. And as a prayer warrior, I take it upon myself to invoke the spirituals to intervene and help.
They see the current conflict in the Middle East with missiles falling near Megiddo in Israel. The most critical human needs.
Members will blow themselves
on
up.
The road to Armageddon.
Hey Sean, it's Walter. Listen, man, still some changes that I need made on our documents, and I need them done today. I don't care if it's after 6. Emailed one of you guys at around 4:30, and no one's gotten back to me. I really don't think that you guys understand who I am. Do you know how many people would beg to be in the position you guys are in? Do you know how much money I can make for your company? I don't care if you're on vacation, Sean. I don't want those changes done tomorrow. I want it done tonight. But I know you can get this done, so get it done. Thank you.
While I was considering the Native American perspective on healing, the rest of the world seemed to be falling more and more into a state of chaos and confusion. Out of the billions now alive on the planet, most were not even aware of the changes for 2012, let alone participating in them. And it seemed once again that the odds were stacked against any new kind of world peace and consciousness. But what I couldn't understand was why Chief Reina didn't see it this way.
In the first world, due to some type of misuse of emotional powers, the earth was destroyed by fire. In the second world, we misused our physical powers. And that world, the people were gone. And then the third world is just like the Bible talks about, through water. And in this world, it's talking about the mind, the consciousness.
We are living, all of us. We are lucky to see, we are witnessing what's happening here in our planet. And at the same time, right now, we all have the choice to really be aware of what we are doing.
So the Hualapai really do believe that through prayer and ceremony, you can actually keep the balance of energies on the planet.
If we can do that here, if you can get 10 good men that have a good consciousness, and if you can get 10 men in the next town, and the next town, if you can get at least 10 people from each city, it can really shift this earth into something really good, but they have to be really pure.
There was something beautiful about the faith these people had in the power and purpose of their own prayers, and their reassuring sign in the face of difficult odds was even inspiring me to a new sense of action. But I also understood now the difference between knowing something in the mind through learning and knowing something more powerfully in the heart through experience. And what I needed now was a collective vision of my own, one that could confirm the truth of all of these ideas, but also move me beyond them, into the very heart of global experience itself. On the invite of the artists Allison and Alex Gray, and in the spirit of my recent discoveries, I made a visit to Burning Man. With 40,000 people coming together from all over the world, and with my interest in a more convincing experience of collective demonstration, I felt there could be no better opportunity for me than to attend this great festival in the northern deserts of Nevada.
Just so great that people come out here and they do their thing. Everybody just gets into it.
Have you ever driven a cupcake before?
Never. This is my first cupcake.
And are you qualified? Do you have a license to drive a cupcake?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Metaphysia!
Burning Man was exactly what I needed to recharge my confidence that we could bring effective change to the world. It was a vision so great in its global sense of coming together and free human expression that I was now beginning to understand why my Native American friends held such faith in the power of their own collective gatherings and traditions. It was as if I had stepped into a completely different dimension and was getting to preview our human potentials for living in this new consciousness of cooperation and community, and it was truly magnificent.
This is my first art car I made after I attended Burning Man 5 years ago. It's 99% recycled material. I was driving around last night just thinking how great it was to be here and be able to, have this space to show my work.
And then I learned something even more extraordinary about Burning Man that I hadn't known before. It wasn't just a unique gathering of art and cooperative living, but it was also a ceremony. The entire gathering of attendees would come together for one final night of ritual focused around a common central theme. And this year's theme was the future, fear or hope. And as I headed out into the night, I had the feeling that something powerful was about to happen.
Are we in a better position to watch the events that are about to unfold right now?
Yeah, actually right behind us there's going to be two really good fire groups.
Then what happens after them?
Then right after that, they're going to go through and the whole man is going to be lit.
What's the significance of the man burning, do you know?
It's just burning everything that basically is wrong with the world and your own mind. It's kind of a symbolic in your own personal aspect more than anything now.
Radiation. Already sees Chinese pollutants.
Today's folks running and screaming.
I could hardly wait until Saturday to see Chief Reina's ceremony for myself. This would be my chance to finally confirm the truth of his teachings, that we really did have this power he spoke about to heal the planet. More than ever, I was ready to make real changes in my life. But as I had learned, real change often meets with real challenge.
You have 5 new voice messages.
Hey, Sean, this is Walter. I just got off the phone with someone at your office. I am not happy right now. They told me that you weren't coming back until after Saturday on Monday. I basically scheduled that meeting for Saturday thinking you were going to be back. But I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. I need you here so you can be here and sign off on this. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you can either get back for Saturday or forget about this whole account. So if you want to just flush this deal down the drain, be my guest. So if I don't see you there on Saturday, I'll assume...
To save, press 2.
No idea what I'm about to say. Nothing. No idea.
Yeah, Hitler, this is Chief Sonny Reina. Life is good. Leave me a good message. Get back to you as soon as possible. Yeah, Hitler from my heart.
Chief Reina, this is Sean Fisher. You're probably like me on the road, not checking messages, but I just checked mine. I have a big meeting with some very important people for our work. There's a lot at stake, and I have to be back for Saturday. What that means is that I'm not going to be able to make the ceremony. If I don't show up, then this meeting cannot happen. I really want to thank you for including me. I'm really sorry, man. I'll have to call you in a couple days when you're back, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
A stupa is a Buddhist holy place, a place where people of any background or belief can come to perform ceremony. By simply circling the site 3 times, one could invoke the mysterious power of prayer. Extremely frustrated with the outcome of my journey, I had stopped at this stupa in the mountains of Arizona to find peace and make a final prayer of my own. And as I considered what I would pray for, I began to think about my life. In the ancient world, the magical and metaphysical were the very foundations of culture, the way people came to understand the meaning of their lives. But in these modern times, the metaphysical had somehow become lost to the physical, and this new worldview was now threatening the very balance of life. But what I was now realizing in all this was how things could change, how the inevitable flux and flow of life could also become conscious and creative, as long as we could release our concerns and choose willingly to embrace our uncertainties. Because in some strange irony of nature, we were always being reminded again and again that on this planet, in order to grow, we must be willing to let go of what is familiar and return to face the unknown. This was the mystery of our human experience, the way we came to trust and know in the higher order of things, and find the courage we needed to rediscover who we truly were and understand the power of what we could do.
Hey, Walter, this is Sean Fisher calling. Listen, I've been doing a lot of thinking and not going to make it back before your meeting. I really feel like I've done a lot of things to keep this business relationship in order, and I just can't do it anymore. I really can't. I already had something planned. I just can't let anything stop me. Thank you.
And as I drove with anticipation toward my final stop, I was met by a messenger, one final time. A rattlesnake. the great icon of power and faith from the Native American legends, was now lying there, directly in front of my car. But that was the stuff of legends and stories. This was a real, live rattlesnake. For a moment, I sat frozen in the car. I didn't know what to do. The ceremony was going to take place before sunset, and Chief Reyna had wanted to meet with me beforehand so we could finally speak face to face and then meet with the other Native American leaders participating. But now this snake was in my path, a messenger from their world. And yet, he wasn't moving, wasn't giving me any idea of what I should be doing, and I was beginning to run out of time. So, I stepped out of my car and any last sense of ordinary reality and put the one thing I did have on the line. I would approach him directly myself and watch for any signs of communication. As crazy as it seemed, I knew I was meant to face him and seek his permission to pass. If the snake were to strike out at me, then obviously he was here as a warning that I was unprepared and should turn back. If he did not strike, but even cleared the path for me to continue, then in the tradition of his people, he was here as a sign that our prayers would soon be carried safely to the spiritual dimensions. And so, slowly, I made my approach. Amazingly, the snake didn't strike out with aggression. And as he cleared the path for me to continue, I felt a great sense of relief overcome me. The time to meet Chief Sonny Reyna had finally come.
Yeah. Chief, how you doing, man? So we're gonna pull your car around here and get in front, and I'll lock the house. All right. Okay, my brother. All right. Good to be alive, everybody.
So there's 4 seasons that affect us on a yearly basis, and there is a great season of 26,000 years that comes, and this is the journey of the sun and the planets, including the Earth, inside the heart of the galaxy. So this is the big season. And at the end of this big season, the human race has lost its humility. The human race has lost its respect for life, its reverence for nature, its reverence for each other.
And then prophecies say before 2012 gets here, that the indigenous nations would now rise and bring their creation stories back into play. And when the earth shifts and shakes, we will soften the blow to nature by our ceremonies, by using our sounds and tones to fix the earth.
The focus is for all those that hear, is to understand now is the time for all to focus on what you've heard and to understand that the direction is to cleanse, the direction is to find your spirit and to focus on Creator and to follow the path that will take you from this destruction.
Grandfather Martin of the Hopis, he recently shared a vision. He said that this awakening, this great awakening is happening now, and it's like a great river. It's running very wide, and it's running very deep and very rapidly, and nothing can escape it, nothing. Many will cling to the roots and to the banks of the old way, but theirs will be torment. Let go. Go out to the middle of the river. Look around and see who's there with you, and celebrate.
It is said in the traditions that the path to ceremony can be long and filled with many trials, But as in birth to death, it is a path we must travel if we are to truly become human. I myself had journeyed long and far to understand the unique and complex conditions of a new century. I was told that the world was undergoing unprecedented planetary transformation, and that human beings were at a critical crossroad.
We know something is coming, 2012, when we may have reached a point where we have been shifted, we have been activated.
Whatever is necessary to understand about ourselves is going to come up. So a lot of people are going through a lot of tough times now, only because it's dealing with their feeling levels.
It is a beginning of cosmic consciousness, but I also think it is the beginning of the last great conflict of that freedom and that consciousness versus the ingrained paradigm of what was.
We have a choice both as individuals and a collective, but I also think the choice is, do we as a species, as well as an individual, do we survive?
But in all of my seeking, I had also discovered something extraordinary again about what it means to be alive. In a world so dominated by science and materialism, we have forgotten the mystery of our own nature and being. And during this special time, like children, we were being given a new opportunity to remember. And in that it is said that the path to ceremony is akin to the path beyond. That true ceremony is a bridge to the sacred, allowing us to participate in the metaphysical world through conscious and meaningful living in the physical.
You want to be in the ceremony, man?
I don't know if I should. I'm not native.
Hey. The human race is native to the earth.
Okay.
Don't ever say they're not native. Come in with us. Que chalea que tui. Que chalea que tui. Kulka las kinowish on shimayo. We gather here on behalf of the entire human race. The 5 colors of human flowers, like the wild flowers that live on the skin of the earth. The earth is our mother, she's alive. Red, yellow, white, black, and brown people, that we are one, that the human race is one.
You work the ceremony to the point where there's a portal and the divine comes through, and that's the definition of ritual.
We can pull back, go to the depths of our being, and birth something without precedent that has nothing to do with the external world.
It's humans co-creating with the divine. It's opening the veil, calling in our partners that we can't see but we can feel.
So this song, these prayers are for all of you. Let go your fear. Let go your fear. Forgive all the pain, all the suffering. Let it go. is a living prayer. Mother Nature, we are on our hands and knees. Please have mercy on us. For the power of love, and the power of this new cycle that has now begun to emerge is that the power of love and compassion will prevail.
By the year 2012, the world as you know it will have ended. Where will you be? What will you be doing? It's strange because in the end, these questions didn't really matter. One of the greatest discoveries I had made was that consciousness changes fate, that through powerful sacred acts like ceremony, we could consciously choose to create our collective destiny together. And for me, after everything I had seen and all I had heard, there was one conscious creation that I held particularly close to my heart. And that was the vision of celebrating a bright morning sunrise in the company of many friends on New Year's Day, 2013.
You have 5 new voice messages.
Hey, buddy, this is Walter. I don't know what I have to do or say to get you to call me back. Please, I got this great deal that I gotta get you the rundown on. Give me a call back as soon as you can. I've left you a couple messages. I know you're really
Ya gente, inantonatsitlan, inantonatsitlan, inantonatsin, inantonatsitlan, inantonatsitlan, inantonatsitlan. Inantonatsin, inantonatsitlan. Well away high yo, well away high yo, well away high yo, well away high, well away high yo, well away high, well away high yo, well away high yo, well away high yo, well away high yo. well away high, yo, well away high, well away high, yo, well away high, well away high, yo, well away high, way a hey ya ne ya way a hey ya ne ya way a hey ya ne ya way high.